I'm Culver Pace.
And I'm Ian Henderson.
And this is our research project for our online interpersonal communication 2110 college class. We are trying to decide whether a person would like to do face-to-face communication or
online communication.
So our questions for this research was
whether age, gender, or where you grew up would affect how you communicate or choose forms of communication.
And then for the face-to-face communication, we have like event, which would be like, do you need an event like a colleagues will ask, would you like to go get dinner for if they're going to do something for their job? Or do you just go up and talk to some person? Or is it the person or situational, like, does it depend on the person you're going to talk to or the situation you're in with that person, and so forth?
Some of the quick questions for our technology and like preferred apps were if you would want to text your friends whether you want to text, call, email, use Snapchat, Facebook, post on Twitter, or DM someone on Instagram.
So this quote right here by Palmer Luckey I liked because he states, in the past, before phones and the internet, all communications was face-to-face. Now, most of it is digital, via email or messaging services. If people were to start using virtual reality, it would almost come in a full circle. And I didn't know if that was true or not, but that does make sense because then you go back to being face-to-face and you can use visual keys and read and react to somebody's body language, which we'll get to here in a minute.
I like how he has like a timeline of how it goes in and what it can happen in the future too.
Yeah. So this was the first research that I had for my evidence, I guess you could say. So it's this article written by Theresa Chichi. She is a designer, illustrator, and writer. This article is called Cross-Generational Communication. Who are you talking to? Me. So she basically talks about communication in the workspace and how you get your advertising and marketing out to different age groups. So she states the four main generations, which are the baby boomers, which they're the oldest generation basically on the planet right now. They prefer the face-to-face communication, and they have started to embrace most modern digital technology, but you won't see them on anything other than Facebook and LinkedIn, which I had never heard of LinkedIn before this, and then my dad said he had heard about it, but I didn't know, so I guess that shows how young I am.
I haven't heard of LinkedIn either.
So,
yeah.
And then Generation X is the kind of the middle generation, but a little older than our parents. I guess they're our parents. So they prefer email if they're communicating to somebody, but they're comfortable with technology. They'll be found on email, Facebook, and Twitter, or now known as X. And you have millennials, which are basically the middle ground between Generation X and Generation Z. They prefer email or texting. They're the first, basically the native digital generation. They started it, they pioneered it basically. And they're not loyal to any particular social media outlet, so they'll be found on everything. And then Generation Z, that's us, we're young. We will be found on mostly Instagram and Snapchat. And then she says that everything nowadays is going onto digital in the workplace because of COVID-19, how it pushed us all back to go on to Zoom meetings and emailing. So it's hard to get communication in person now with every generation. So that's what she talks about.
Next, we're going on to the disconnection caused by like devices and advances in technology. Younger generations like Gen Z or millennials often tend to choose like fast and informal like forms of communication like social media or quick text messages. We found that baby boomers and Gen X typically are more to the opposite. They will choose face-to-face interaction first, and if they really have to, then they'll move to like slow-paced phone calls or informal texts. I feel like these two communication styles like could either cause a disconnection like we talked about before, or actually bring people together. One of the ways I found it could bring people together would be generations trying to convey how they communicate and why they choose that way. But the disconnection is usually a lack of nonverbal communication, which baby boomers and some of them older generations are used to. And younger generations not understanding that and conveying it in a different form, like over text. They know how to do that, and older generations don't quite understand it as well, and it can cause confusion there.
Right, I agree. That is very good. Right. I think that most generations struggle with communicating with each other because we all have different eras of communication through our time, so then it struggles to get generations to converge over that.
We found like two main causes for the decline in face-to-face communications with social withdrawal. That's people trying to distance themselves from real-world interactions and like some of the difficulties in conversations that they're not used to, such as the nonverbal communication. That can lead into a reduced social practice, and that's more time being spent on devices and less time in real world situations. I feel like once they start reducing their social practice, it leads into like a cycle that stacks upon itself, and then there's less and less like conversations in real life and situational awareness that we can use in our day-to-day interactions. The second one was face-to-face challenges caused by the decline of face-to-face communication. A lot of them are in-person anxiety, and a lot of people feel like young people feel anxious when talking to people in person or in like a formal setting like emails or stuff like that. It can affect relationships. Like younger generations will struggle like picking up on things socially and nonverbal cues, and that can cause friction and like an unwillingness to fix a relationship. There's a couple ways to rebuild these communication skills. Sports is a very big one, and other activities like that, because of the like play calls and needing to talk to each other about what's going on the field or the court at all times. A couple other ways to rebuild it would be getting an educator and older generation who understands the concept and talking to them in a respectful way and trying to pick up on what they do.
I like the in-person anxiety, like when people have anxiety talking to people, and it feels like a lot of times today everyone has a lot of anxiety or depression, and with most younger people having either Snapchat, either Snapchat, YouTube Shorts, Instagram, or TikTok, where you just scroll fast through everything and you're moving quick and not really taking in much. It can cause anxiety when you have to talk to somebody or respond like on time without having to go through that awkward silence. Because in Snapchat, you can look at it and then you can wait to decide what you're actually going to say without having to give the other person the awkward silence that you and them are having.
Yeah, I feel like that affects even me. Like right now, doing the slideshow, I get a little bit like stumbling over my words because I'm trying to make sure I'm saying it right, and like I feel like people my age typically are afraid of failing in situations like that and don't want to be looked down upon because of that.
Yeah, I agree. So my second source of evidence that I found was this YouTube video by a guy named Alexander Lyon. Alexander Lyon, he has a PhD in communication, and he is a professional communication coach. So in this video, he talks about face-to-face communication versus online communication. But since he's a communication coach, he tries to help us build up our communication skills, which can also help us to find our answer for what we're trying to look for. So he says that face-to-face is hard because you have to co-create, and it builds relationships that way. But if you don't want to co-create, you can't have one person carrying the conversation, because then it won't build the relationship if one person is just over talking over the other one. So that was basically his whole face-to-face part. But he goes a lot into the online part of communication. He says there's a lot of scammers, and he uses a reference of him uploading a picture of his lawn onto Facebook or Twitter. And you can have these haters, basically, or trolls, as he says, that say you use too much water, you're taking out the drought from everybody else's lawn, or you didn't use enough water and you don't deserve to be posting that grass that doesn't look that good. So anybody can hate on anything, no matter how good it looks, no matter how perfect. And then he says how you are unable to read and react, because in the face-to-face, you have to be able to read and react to a person. You're unable to do that if it's just text or one video sending back to another video. You can't read what they're doing over and over again. And then he says each platform has a purpose, and he uses reference layers to the cake of face-to-face. So in email and texting, it's just straight informational instructions. You do this, and it can be very easily misinterpreted from different generations, because you can say I'm fine in a happy tone, I'm fine, or I'm fine, leave me alone. But you don't know that if it's just fine. So, and then he says social media takes a bigger layer of the cake, but it isn't completely whole, because with social media, you're capable of having everything an in-person conversation has, but they can carefully be crafted to portray a different thing than what they actually are, because you can take the video, and then if you don't like it, delete it and try again, and so forth. And then you can react. Everyone reacts in they either love it or hate it way. There's no middle ground, because you either are agreeing with them, so you love it, or you either hate it. There's not really any middle ground with social media. And then with his video or FaceTime, he talks about Facebook Live and YouTube Live. And he says these are the best ones, but still they're no match for face-to-face communication, because if you have the person that's filming and they can talk to the chat, you'll have the two people that are very talkers in the chat, and they're either loving it or they're hating it. And then you have basically the people that are in the middle ground. They still don't say anything, because they're not sure they want to get in any confrontation with either or, and they don't want to take a side. So
I back in the scammers thing, I like how he kind of shows that the difference to face-to-face and online communication, because if you're online, you're going to be a little more ballsy and say mean stuff,
right?
Because you don't have the same repercussions. Whereas face-to-face, even if someone didn't like the lawn, they would possibly be saying oh yeah, I love it, it looks great, stuff like that. So
trying not to hurt their feelings. Yeah, I agree with that. So then we took our survey. We had 137 people take our survey. So 34% were Gen Z, which is our generation. Then 26% was millennial, 25% was Gen X, and 15% was baby boomers. So we ended up sending this out to our friends in school, our parents, grandparents. We play basketball up north, so we sent it to some of our friends that are up there, and then we asked all of them to send it out to other people, so then we could get a more variety of people taking our test, so then it's not just a few certain people. So we had one of our questions was, what is the most used app on your phone? What do you use most of the time? Facebook was the most used. It was used about 6 people said it was their most used. Then it went Instagram at 31, then Snapchat at 30, text at 28, and then email at 8, I believe. And then other was 3, which the other was basically they don't use any social media or apps. So those I assume were the baby boomers of the generations that basically don't have any communication. And if they're going to talk to you, they will use text or email, but they're not going to unless they are trying to commute with somebody that they don't know in person.
Yeah, we found too that more people use Facebook and Instagram and stuff like that, but more time was spent on Snapchat and texting because our generation, the Gen Z and millennials, tend to stick to those two more, and they spend more time on their phones. So there was the time on Snapchat and texting was almost double anything else.
And then for this last one, this kind of answers our whole question, is that it is situational. We asked, does it depend on the situation you are in if you're going to choose to talk to somebody face-to-face or online? And 95% said yes. I think there are only probably, 7-ish people that said no, that they just wouldn't talk to anybody in face-to-face. And I don't know why, but they just said no. So our conclusion was, for our research to face-to-face, you have the visual cues, the audio cues, the space. Like if somebody is stepping far away from you, you can tell that they don't want to talk to you, or they're just trying to read the environment before they come and talk.
If they're really avoiding touch too, that can be a sign that they're not wanting to be around you or something like that.
Right. And then, so for the answer for our face-to-face is that it's situational. If you have to go talk to somebody face-to-face, you might go talk to them with an event on hand because you want to take out the awkward silence. But if it's somebody that I'm close to or one of my loved ones, I might not need an event and I'll just go talk to them.
Yeah.
And then for our online research, we found that each app takes a different layer out of the cake for our face-to-face communication. So it's not good if you have to use online over face-to-face, but they all are designed for different sets and types of communication.
Yeah. For the age part, we were saying like different ages tend to stick to other apps too. So
yes,
like different apps, layers of the cake.
Yeah.
So.
And then, so our survey told us that it is also situational. Like you're not gonna Snapchat your boss to be like, hey, is it okay if I'm a little late today? I'm a little sick. You're gonna text or email them and so forth with everything else. And then with preference, you have like, if you prefer to use Snapchat or over text, then you would probably Snapchat your girlfriend, or if you preferred text over Snapchat, then therefore.
Yeah, we found that age really affects that preference, so.
Okay, and that is the end for our presentation. Thank you.
Thank you.